Hi there, my name's Catherine Jeans. I'm the family nutrition expert. I wanted to talk to you today about how to bake with your kids and some really simple swaps that you can use to make your bakes much healthier. Now, I'm all about simplicity and not having to have really complicated recipes. And with a bit of practice, you can just take everyday recipes and make them much, much healthier. So most cakes and biscuits, they're going to have a lot of sugar plus lots of white refined flour in them. And that's not generally a good thing. So simple swaps that you can make. First of all, you can start using more whole grain flour. So I've got whole grain spelt flour here. You can use wholemeal wheat flour or a mixed blend. I would advise you not to use 100% wholemeal flour though, because you might find it makes your cakes and your biscuits a little bit heavy, but start going for 50% and see how that goes. The other grain that's really good to try and include in your baking is some oats. Oats are such a good source of soluble fibre and they're rich in chromium, which actually helps to keep our blood sugar balanced. So really, really good to include some oats in your baking, so that obviously you've got flapjacks, and I've got some great flapjack recipes on my blog. But also things like biscuits, you know, you can put some oats in there, and if you've got a NutriBullet or a good blender, actually it will blend down to flour, so that's a really good thing. When it comes to blood sugar balance as well, the key thing is to try and add some protein and some extra fibre, because by doing that, that stops these kind of real ping-ups of blood sugar which you get when you eat something very sweet and refined. So that's why we add the whole grains, but also you can add things like nuts and seeds. So maybe you could swap out 50 grams of the flour for 50 grams of ground almonds, for example. Or perhaps you could look at adding some seeds. So here I've got some chia seeds, or you could add some flaxseed. You don't want to add too much, but just a little bit will actually really help to add a little bit more protein. Any nuts make a really good flour. You know, you can make cakes, banana cakes particularly, with lots and lots of pecan nuts, and you don't actually even have to use flour. So any nuts, pecans, ground up almonds and things like that. So let's talk about things to sweeten with now. It is possible to make cakes and things like, you know, little flapjacks and little buns and muffins with very little sugar. Actually, I only put for this whole recipe, and I made 14 of these, 1 heaped tablespoon of dark brown sugar. And sometimes I don't use sugar at all. Sometimes I use a natural sweetener. So here I've got xylitol. It is very, very similar to sugar in consistency and taste. Doesn't give things a bitter taste like some of the sweeteners do. And actually it really is the same consistency as sugar. It's been shown in research to actually positively help with preventing tooth decay because it actually neutralizes any acid in your mouth. So it's a really good one. But again, I'd still reduce the amount of sugar. So if a recipe's calling for about 200 to 300 grams of sugar, I'd probably only put about 80 to 100 grams. It's very sweet, same as sugar, and you just don't need as much, because the more you stimulate a sweet tooth, the more your child or you is going to want sweet things. Also look at fruit as well to sweeten. So bananas are great. A couple of bananas is a really good substitute. Maybe a little bit of maple syrup, but remember that it is still sweetness at the end of the day. Also dried fruit. There's a lot of sugar in dried fruit, of course, but you're also getting a lot of fibre, iron, magnesium, manganese, and zinc in dried fruit. So I've got here some raisins. You can use dried apricots, dates, of course. Just watch out for recipes that have, 200 grams of dates, because that's a lot of sugar. So I tend to use about 8 or 9 per recipe. Goji berries, also quite sweet, not as sweet, but very high in antioxidants. You can also look at natural herbs and spices as well to help sweeten. So quite often I'll grate in some orange zest or lemon zest, which gives a certain kind of sweetness. So I'll use some orange juice or some apple juice or grated apple in a recipe. Cinnamon is also great. Love the smell of cinnamon sticks. But obviously for baking, you'd more want to be using ground cinnamon. So a teaspoon or 2, don't be shy with spices, and some mixed spice as well. Also think about your frostings. If you are making things like cupcakes, I have actually put a cream cheese frosting on here. Obviously not if you're dairy intolerant, but I have, for kids that can obviously eat cream cheese, full fat cream cheese, basically just get a few tablespoons of it. Chuck it in a bowl. So any full fat cream cheese is fine. if you've, as an adult, if you've been told to use low fat, you could use something like quark. I just kind of mix it around to give it a little bit more looseness and consistency, so it's a bit smoother. Then I'll put, either I might use some xylitol, or I might use a tablespoon or 2 of maple syrup or honey, and just mix that in. You think about typical frosting that you put on cupcakes, how much sugar is in there, usually a lot of icing sugar. And then I'll just get my zester. This is a really nice zester, so any grater will do, and just grate in some orange. You could use lemon, could use lime, and actually there's a lot of antioxidants under the skin there in the white bits, if you can get a little bit of the whiteness in as well, but loads of antioxidants in there. So I'm aiming for about a tablespoon, something like that, depends how strong you like it. Give that a good scraping in. You could add a little bit more than that if you wanted. And then you could put a little bit of orange juice in there as well, and just mix it through. So then you've got a really nice topping. So if we want to decorate some of these muffins, literally just a case of putting a nice dollop on top there, and you could decorate that with a bit of extra lemon or orange zest on top. So really nice. Keep them in the fridge, obviously, because it's cream cheese, and they'll last for 3 or 4 days. So I hope you found those tips helpful. You can find more information on my blog, thefamilynutritionexpert.com, and also there you can find details of my new course, How to Help Your Kids Live to 100, where there's loads more recipes, top tips on how to feed your children really, really well, and hopefully get them in the best optimal wellness to feed their brain, their body, so they can have a childhood and an adulthood full of optimal wellness. I look forward to seeing you soon, and do subscribe obviously to my newsletter where I send out lots of tips and things as well. Look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.